ZingoTV channel 250. Please remember to download both the Barnburner and ZingoTV apps in their respective iOS and Android app stores. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment, and remember both apps are free. ZingoTV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nathan Fernandez, and welcome to another edition of Kicking It with Y9. He's back. He's finally back after missing last week's two shows. Mr. Thivian V, the soccer expert, is back. Thivian, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. And I mean, like, November's almost ending. We're approaching December. Um, I think maybe if you see me on the next Thursday show, not the coming Thursday show, you'll see I guess a different look of me. Or actually no, Monday is November 30th, right?
Yeah,
Okay, next Tuesday we'll
different look.
watch.
Are you taking off the November beard?
I'll let you see that in the coming next show. We'll
Okay,
see.
fine. It's a surprise. Surprise. So Thivian, yeah, like November. Today's what, the 24th. We're in the middle of the off season, like smack dab. Like it's snowing outside. The soccer is not. There's nothing happening right now, and to be honest, with York 9, things have started to slow down now. Like we had a good month in early November, October, where there was things happening like every other day. But finally, like the roster is starting to be rearranged, and we finally know like what kind of players we're gonna be dealing with moving on to next season. I really don't think there's gonna be more roster moves made. Maybe just like one or two kind of youth, maybe fringe players, but we pretty much have our starting roster like complete. And one piece of good news is after all the news of departures such as Maury Donor and Gasparado and all players like that, we finally got some good news that Roger Thompson has committed himself to a multi-year deal. So he's the one player aside from Absi who kind of switched in and out with Sagawa, out of those like Iron Men from last year, Roger Thompson is the only one to come back. First of all, are you happy? Are you sad? Like, what's your thought process? Is only keeping one Iron Man like in your squad, is it bad? Is it good? Like, what's your thought on that?
I mean, considering that we had kind of like a small amount of center backs, I think it's very important that we got this deal on the line. And yeah, for sure, Roger Thompson. Wow, huge signing to keep. You know, if you've seen some of his games and everything, especially his long balls, it's absolutely sublime. I remember the Pacific game where Roger Thompson to Telford to what is it, Rivero.
Rivero, yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful goal that was, and it all started with Roger Thompson. So someone that can give you that good defense, good on the defensive end, as well as try to contribute on the attack. I think it's very important to keep, and I'm more than happy to see him re-sign for York Nine.
Yeah. See, so the deal is there, it says multi-year deal. So they've got him signed on for 2021 and they have him signed on for 2022. And there's also an option for 2023. Now, I might be wrong, but Roger Thompson, I think he's 28. With a 28-year-old player in the CPL, would you give him a 3-year deal, or is maybe like 3 years too much, or like would you lock him down for like 4 years? Like, what's your thought on that?
Um, I mean, like in terms of selling him and everything, when you run down to 31, and everything, I think it's still a good price going forward and everything, right?
Mhm.
But of course, you want to see that you can try to maybe sell him off and everything. But I feel like he's getting at that age where not many teams will be interested in him
Yeah.
around that age, especially with the competition he is right now. I think it's really good that we are keeping him. I guess it's like a 2-year contract with the 1-year extension, which I don't understand why they're calling these deals multi-year deals.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand that why they cannot disclose the amount of years as we can see with other transfers. But regardless, it's absolutely a great deal, and I think a good I think a good like contract that's been given to him definitely.
Yeah, so that was a huge signing. So to bring back a big player from our team for the past 2 years, but York Nine recently made a huge addition off the field actually. So they announced like a few weeks ago, November 17th, they announced that they had appointed Eva. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right. Eva Havaris as their executive vice president of strategy and operations. So and she's going to be basically a chief of staff at York 9. And she's going to report directly into Angus McNabb, the managing consultant slash president slash CEO slash GM, whatever. He's got a bunch of roles. So this is a pretty interesting decision because she's got a huge resume, a huge CV. Let me just read some of it right now. So she's a highly regarded leader who came to York 9 after being working with the CPL head office, where she was the vice president of strategy and league operations. She oversaw a bunch of projects, including bringing on multiple sponsors and also that huge deal where the CPL acquired League One Ontario, where they bought over League One. And also she kind of helped plan out the Island Games as well. And then before that, she served as the CEO of Taekwondo Canada and Equestrian Canada. And she spent a bunch of years with Rugby Canada as the associate director for women's rugby and national rugby development. So she's has a lot of experience in a bunch of other sports. With the equestrian and taekwondo, rugby Canada, she really knows how to run a huge operation. And same thing with graduate of University of Western Ontario, where she completed a master's in sports management. She was a collegiate soccer player. She won the 2003 Player of the Year award, and she also coached at Fanshawe College and U of T. So the thing I want to like first thing when I look at her resume here, I want to think is like it's great that we have her on, but it almost makes me feel like her resume is too good for us. Like I'm surprised she kind of accepted this position because strategy and operations. So it's someone with that kind of level of experience and stuff. You kind of wonder what's the plan like to bring her on. Like she has a load of experience, and when I look at her CV, I feel like she's a person who could go to another team and be their CEO or be their president or GM. So
Mhm.
now the thing is wondering, like, you have these two big, you have Angus McNabb, who's obviously a very opinionated person and has a big say in York 9 operations, but then you bring in another person who's now the chief of staff for strategy and operations. Do you feel like this is like we're delving too much on like thinking of a plan rather than executing it? I don't see anyone like coming in who's like acting as a scout or like acting like people who are trying to develop like results. These are
Mhm.
like her coming in with Angus. We know that there's two people. Like when I think about the York 9 front office, you think of Angus and you think of this lady now, and you think of who controls all their like who's their transfer negotiations or transfer policy. It's kind of all controlled by Angus, and who's acts as a scout really is Angus and Jimmy Brennan. Are
Mhm.
they kind of bringing in someone who's going to help develop strategy, but are they bringing in people who will actually execute the strategy? What do you think of her side, like her addition? And do you think it's a good one? Do you think we're like kind of, I don't know, I feel like we're just making it more confusing for everyone else to understand what our end goal is by bringing in all of these people?
Well, I mean, like based on the resume and everything, it's very business oriented, I would say, right? And I mean, like, I don't know if we should particularly put like a statement for herself saying what she's planning to do and everything. I think I'm pretty sure. Did you? Is there a statement?
Uh, like she says she thanks the Baldessera family, and she talks about when she joined the league, she wants to build a lasting legacy for Canadian soccer. Basically, what everyone else say when they join the Canadian Premier League, they're like, "Oh, I'm glad to join this project, and
Mhm.
I can't wait to develop soccer in Canada." But she never talks about what exactly their plan is. And same thing with Angus. He talks a lot about growing the game and growing the game, but they don't exactly talk about how exactly they're going to grow the game. If you get what I'm
Right.
saying, like I feel like there's too many people thinking about plans and strategy and there's no one really executing any plan because York 9 in all honesty, they're in shambles right now, and I just don't see, even with this addition, like she's great, but I just don't see any real plan for the for years to come.
Right, and I think that's very. You think when I think about like these big like teams and everything, I think you need to really communicate what's going on and everything, right? Because you can't just have people transferring out and then new people transferring in, and you're like, there's no like further justification on it, right? And I think it's important that they do communicate with the fans. But with the new admission of her, all I see is like it's more like a business idea. They're trying to generate maybe more money and maybe that. Now, if she's going to be like in charge of how the players come in and everything, and maybe like contract negotiations, who knows? Maybe that's what she's brought into. I'm not sure, but based on the resume and everything, it's more like on the business sense, trying to get like deals and all these other things. But who knows what's going to happen and everything. And hopefully, maybe Alex Van Abbott or someone else can give a further update on what they plan to do. Because
Yeah.
from their last one, they're like, oh, they want to build this kind of new thing, but we don't know what's going on. And we don't even know if we're going to compete this season or not. And if you do have an idea on that, I think fans would be able to know what their expectation is
Mhm.
going forward.
Yeah, the thing I look at here though is basically like she's been appointed as vice president of strategy and operations, but when she worked with the league, they talk about how she worked on deals where bringing in sponsors and
Right.
getting the island games like kind of sorted out, and kind of that deal where you acquire League One Ontario. I just it's almost like her roles are like all over the place with the league, and when she's going to join New York 9, I don't like someone with her experience shouldn't like I just feel like she should focus on one thing rather than like kind of being all over the place like Angus McNabb is right now. You can tell that he's kind of wearing a bunch of hats right now, and nothing really
Yeah.
is being done well as such from a
Right.
fan standpoint. And I fear that she's going to come into like, is she going to focus mainly on bringing in sponsors? Is she going to focus mainly on um, like team partnerships? Is she going to focus on like what exactly is
And
she going to
maybe
focus
that could be the case as well, because look at it this way, right? I think a lot of people have been affected by COVID as well, and you got to remember that needs to be taken into consideration, right? In terms of the amount of staff and everything, who knows how much people can come in and out and everything, and whether or not the payment is right or not. But it's going to be interesting. I think maybe it is for like financial purposes and everything, and like to increase the amount of financial power that York Nine has and everything.
on?
And
Yeah.
again, but like all teams are struggling as well. We don't know their situations, and right now, I think a lot of York Nine fans are just kind of on the fence. So like, well, this is happening, but then how is it gonna? Right, and we're still waiting for more answers, more of a clear idea of it. So for her coming and everything, I think it is, or at least what I think is, it's going to help on the financial end and everything. But in terms of what is actually going to be used, I'm not too sure yet. And I'm pretty sure you're not too sure yet on.
Yeah, yeah, it's like nobody's sure. Like when you read this, it's like, okay, great. Like you gave a whole list of her resume, but you didn't exactly state of what she is going to do. Like normally when teams when they release like a rule, like I'm gonna use this example of Barry FC, 1812 FC. They announced that they had brought on I forget what his name is, but they announced that they had brought on this guy who worked with Arsenal and Arsene Wenger as their scouting director. And they basically said in the press release that he's going to be working with 1812 Barry FC as player development and a scouting director for the club. So fans know exactly what he is brought in to do. And with this, like you don't really know what she's brought in to do. So that's what I'm really confused about. And you're right, like I feel York 9 is really in a weird position right now because they're trying to do there's too much of they do a lot of building hype. That's I feel
Right.
fine with York 9. Like even last year, that whole take the ground thing, and same thing
Mhm.
like bringing in someone. Oh, she's going to be our executive vice president. Like it's a lot of hype,
Mhm.
right? But there's
And
not
I
a
think
lot
what's
of
very important, and especially to get with the fans and everything, is to at least communicate the ideas properly of what's going on and what the situation is. Put statements out there, or like clear. Like I know they have been putting statements, or put clear and concise statements on. Like right, this is the position we're at. This is what we're building towards. If you can stay with us and everything, this is what we can achieve and everything and whatnot. But
Mhm.
they're not. They're still thinking like, okay, yes, don't worry, guys, we got this, we got this, we got this, without really saying like, okay, what is the intention and everything, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if the fans are the ones that want to know like what's going on and how they can support, you've seen it with many clubs before, how they try to build like community values and whatnot and everything, right?
Mhm.
Um, and hopefully we can definitely be like that as well. But if you don't communicate what's going on well, then people are going to be ask questions, and I think kind of like us, we're asking questions on what's going on, what is
Yeah,
the
of
idea.
course, yeah. I know if there were answers, like we wouldn't be talking about this right now where we're all like really confused and kind of speculating. Like as a fan, I don't want to speculate about what's happening with the club that I'm putting my
Hmm.
money towards. Like I want to know exactly what I'm paying for, right?
And
Like
speaking of what you want to know, I don't understand the term multi contract or multi deal contracts or something like that. I don't understand why they cannot specify the amount of years and everything,
yeah,
and they
you
have to
know,
like.
I'm kind of happy you brought that up because that's going to be the second topic we're talking about today. So, like, enough with the Eva hair of our side. Like, that's confusing in itself. So we'll move on to something I think we have a better grasp on. So, hopefully, Eva comes in and she's kind of used. She spends a lot more time working out our transfer policy and contract negotiations. Because here is the thing, so with York 9, everyone knows it's not a secret by now that something happened last year or the first year where players didn't like each other, and we kept like for Bunchy last year, out of all of the players coming back from the first season to the next season, there were only two players we signed on to multi-year deals, and that was Maury Donor and Didi Nabzi. Everyone else got signed on to York 9 for single year deals. Obviously, through the progression of the Island Games, we saw that Nate Ingham signed a multi year deal as well. But a lot of players only signed 1 year deals. And that is the thing that I don't understand because you look at now what's happened. Luca Gasparotto has left. He's saying he retired from football. One of our two of our best players in the Island Games were Manny Aparicio and Joseph H.E.R. They were both signed on to 1 year deals, and now look at them. They both left to join rival CPL clubs. Aparicio to Pacific and DKR to Cavalry. What I don't understand is, um, sorry, like you sign these players onto 1 year deals, and if they perform well, they get to the point at the end of the season, if they do really well, that they can turn around and say like, yeah, I'm not signing for your club. I'm going to go somewhere that pays me more money. What I don't understand is, like, if you're a club, why don't you sign that player, and then if another club really wants that particular player, they will pay you a transfer fee, and you'll make a huge load of money, much more than you would have paid for otherwise. Like you're letting them go for free. We saw this a little example with Emilio Estevez last year. There was reports that he was coming back. We signed him to a contract, but then Ado Den Haag from the Dutch league comes in, pays a transfer fee of $100,000 for Emilio Estevez, and he's sold. So there, you lock down a player, so he's your player and he's your asset that you now have the ability to sell if you want to. But what happens if they didn't sign Emilio Estevez to another deal? Otto Den Haag would have come, approached him, and took him away for free. So that's what I don't understand. Like we talked about this multi-year deal thing, where Roger Thompson is signed on for 2 years, but he has the option to leave. Like there's an option for a third. Like I don't understand what that option for a third is. Like you either like the player or you don't. If you're a club, like that option there is not like what if Roger
Well, I
Thompson.
mean, like an option for a third, right? I mean, like some people they have that kind of clause in there just so then they can maybe sell the player something. You see, but like so Coutinho, they had it. They had like a contract extension. So in
Mhm.
case if they don't want him to go for free, they can exercise that opportunity
Yeah.
to extend it, right? But I think I do agree on the fact that it's very particular. You look at the end of the season, right? How everybody didn't perform properly. I think Alex Manav, his last update, he said like no player that performed well didn't get, as if
Deserved, yeah.
deserved, but as if like he had like, what is it, the choice and everything, which is not particularly the case. I mean, there were a lot of players that performed really well, and they never got a contract extension, which is
Yeah.
very confusing. Like you look at H.E.R, I would say one of the more better players in our team and everything, and he's now strengthened a rival of ours, which
Yeah.
is absolutely ridiculous. And Calvary's going to be way more better. And then Aparicio, where did he head off to? He head off to
Pacific, yeah.
Pacific, who in my opinion, when I saw them verse against us, I was surprised. They had a tactical plan going forward and everything, and maybe they didn't have like players that could finish properly, but I looked at it as like, wow, what? And I actually like the manager as well. I mean, I know I only saw one of the games, but I actually like the way they played in that thing, and I think Aparicio, he gives like that captain, you know,
Yeah.
presence and everything, and that is a huge thing. So then you're questioning who's going to be the captain in York Nine, for example. Like who's going to be there now? I don't know.
Yeah, and you look at like who would you bring back as your captain? Like we've just got rid of all of the players who we would um that have played for this club before. So how do you decide on a captain? Because like Angus McNabb in his statement, he said that DKR is left, and most likely Ryan Telfer is going to leave as well. Like you're just like if you look at our starting lineup from the first season, who in our club has stayed? Like other than like is Nate Ingham gonna be the captain? But how is he gonna be the captain when
I
you
mean, we just
sign?
got a goalkeeper as well.
Yeah,
So I mean,
Nico.
is Nate Ingham planning to leave? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, 'cause there's so much uncertainty with this team right now,
And
and
like talking about Telfer as well. I mean, like, look, I know he didn't perform well last season. I think rightfully so. But I mean, like, you've seen him 2 seasons before and what he can do. So maybe it was maybe a blimp and whatnot,
mm,
right? So would you want to risk letting him go, right?
yeah.
It's very confusing.
Also,
Um,
you kind of feel bad for these players because, like, you look at how many games they played 7 games in a year compared to the 30 or 32 that they would normally play. And 7 games is it's like sometimes players go through a slump. Like, you look at Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I'm a huge Arsenal fan. And you look at the slump that he's going through right now. He hasn't scored a goal from on-field play in the Premier
must hurt
League
you so
since.
much that Kane is just must
Yeah,
hurt
of
you.
course, yeah. But you look at he hasn't scored a goal from open play in the Premier League since the first day against Fulham, and we're now like in end of November. So you're looking at a huge slump for him in terms like obviously he's gotten goals like in penalties against Man United, but like that's a huge slump for him. But knowing the type of talent he is, Arsenal had to sign him down to another contract, and I feel bad for these York Nine players from last year who don't really get contract extensions. Like as a as a managing consultant or Angus McNabb, from a fan's point of view, like how dare you say these players don't deserve contracts? Like how can you come out and say that? Like you're just making your own players, like your own team. Like at the end of the day, these players are playing for you, and if you turn around and say they're bad, like who is gonna want to come to your club like after that?
I think it's particularly not like, of course, there are players that absolutely, they didn't perform well. But then when you look at other players that do deserve contract extensions and you didn't sign them, then you got to ask questions like, hold on a minute, this player did particularly well, this one particularly well. Why, and it's not like he has control of it because their contracts are off anyways. So he didn't
Yeah.
have any control. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
I don't know.
confusing as well.
Yeah, I feel like if I was York Nine player, I'd be a bit cautious. Like if I was a player and York Nine approached me to sign them, I know I'm a fan of the club, but honestly, I'd be a little nervous if I was approached by them, and I'd be a bit unsure. And unfortunately, we have run out of time today because this is a huge topic. Like I feel like just the state of the club. Like I feel every week we're talking about something else that has gone wrong with the club. Anyways, guys, that is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you, Vivian, for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, this show can be heard on the Barnburner Radio Network on all of its 122 platforms. Please check us out at barnburner.ca for all the sports news. Barnburner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and